No. Absolutely not. No. No. What about, like, Red Guardian? That's a little more your style, like your shape. No.
Okay. But...
No. What a poser.
Alright. Why are you, like, at attention?
I'm ready.
Alright, anyway. What's up, guys? This is Choppy Flops. We just got back from seeing Black Widow. Finally, the MCU's back in a big way. We finally got our first movie since Far From Home. I mean, it's insane. It feels like it's been forever. I mean, it almost feels like the beginning when the MCU was just, an idea and movies were still separate and, there weren't such thing as big universes. It's kind of crazy to actually see, and we'll get to it later more in a spoiler section, but it's crazy to see, the post-credit scene and to see a post-credit scene that actually leads into a future movie and all that. It's so crazy to actually be watching a Marvel movie for like that isn't, part of the Infinity Saga or Far From Home. I mean, it really was cool though. I mean, in a way, it's kind of part of the Infinity Saga. It slots in there.
Yeah.
Because as it turns out, it actually takes place right after Civil War, I guess. At the very beginning.
After the Avengers got a divorce.
Yeah, at the very beginning, there's actually a scene where Thunderbolt Ross is, going after them. We'll get to that later, but yeah. So initial thoughts. The movie was good overall. It had a little bit of pacing issues in my opinion, personally. Now I did go in a little bit tired to begin with, but I mean, any movie that has such high action in like so many parts, but then it's just split up, so it comes to just a grinding halt every 15-20 minutes of action. And then there's a 10-20 minute or 15-20 minute bit of just sitting around and talking and telling some backstory, and it just a little bit of that made me upset because there were quite a few things that were actually mentioned and brought up that were thoroughly talked about in detail when they could have been showing us those things. I mean, hell, they had long enough to go ahead and do some reshoots and shoot extra footage. I mean, why not? We've been wanting to see a bunch of this stuff, and I get it. It's probably, to save it for future projects, blah, 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 blah. But, honestly, I would have loved to have, and, they mentioned it pretty early on, so I wouldn't consider it a spoiler, but when they talk about Budapest, you finally get some information on the Budapest mission, and you're kind of told about it, but it doesn't show you nearly any of it. And you're just like, well, what the hell?
Right.
and you've been hyping us up on this mission, telling us about it for, all these years, ever since freaking Avengers 1. Oh, it's like Budapest, and also then, I gotta say, they had that whole little argument in Avengers about Budapest, however the fuck it's pronounced, but it doesn't make sense because the entire time, Nat herself has pronounced it Budapest, and so has Clint.
Yeah.
So I don't see how all of a sudden now she's this grammar Nazi about how it's pronounced. But I mean that's not really a big deal. But what's important to me is, like I said, we get this vivid description of everything that happened, and you think, oh cool, so we're gonna get a flashback of all this, and we're gonna see her and Clint actually working together doing the Budapest mission that they're always talking about. But no, all we get is, oh, what are those marks? Bullet holes? No, some arrows.
Right.
And it's well, damn, we could have at least seen how those arrows got there or something.
Right, exactly.
That was one of my biggest issues with the movie, is that a lot of it, and I guess this is an inherent problem, and we kind of talked about this earlier, was that with Marvel making its transition into television the way it has been, it has the allowance to have 6 hours to develop a couple of characters and one giant interweaving storyline that's interconnected to other stuff, but isn't focused on, we gotta hype up and tease this movie and that movie and this project. We got to save a little bit for this project and make sure we don't do anything with this so that way it doesn't intersect with that plot line and this, that, the other. And also that too, being that it's a movie in between movies that already came, it had to be very careful with what it did do because it could have created a lot of plot holes. But in general, with Marvel, like I said, transitioning into television, the movies just kind of they start to feel like a lot is crammed into one chunk, 1 2-hour block.
Right.
And you don't have as much time to appreciate the characters and the storyline and what's actually going on, as opposed to, you know, and they can't tell so much. They can't have so much happen in a 2-hour span as much as they can in a 6-hour span. And, you know, with these series, a lot of them are miniseries too, so they're kind of getting at the story they want to tell, and then they have other stuff down the line that it's going to kind of tie into, but nothing serious. I mean, other than, you know, WandaVision and Loki are going to have serious ramifications for future of Marvel, but, like, they weren't adhering to any specific thing. You know, they have a lot more freedom with these TV shows, so I guess it's just going to be an inherent problem going forward into the future that the movies are probably going to feel kind of constricted in what they can and can't do. I mean, they always kind of have, but we never had the TV shows and the absolute freedom that they have with that. Well, not absolute freedom, but the much larger sense of freedom that they have with that. We've never really had that to compare it to. I mean, we've had the Netflix series, but those were really super disjointed, and they didn't really even feel like Marvel shows. I mean, generally, overall, you know, I'm nitpicking, I'm bitching, but overall, it was a good movie. And I'm happy to be back and seeing some Marvel movies. We decided to go to the drive-in, but it was a great experience. I loved actually getting to see a new Marvel movie for once. Red Guardian was great in it. Taskmaster was a little disappointing for reasons we'll get into in the spoiler section, but in general, yeah, I would definitely go ahead and go see the movie. It's definitely worth the ticket, at least to go see it once. Don't see it on Disney Plus. There's no reason to pay $30 for it. If anything, you just wait for it to come out on Disney Plus if you're gonna do that.
In like 2 months or something.
Something like that, yeah. But if you're really wanting to see it, if you're really wondering how it is, you're wanting to get the experience and feel it for your own self, I would definitely recommend going and seeing it. At least go see it before you watch this next part of the video, which is going to be our spoiler section, where we're going to be going over more specific sections of the movie. If you don't care about that, or you have seen the movie, feel free to stick around, and we're going to get to all of that in a second. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. Share it with somebody that somebody who's into the MCU, who's excited for Black Widow or wants to know how it is. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. But alright, so spoiler section. This is your last warning. We're going to be talking about specific sections of the movie and spoiling everything in it. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about. You gone? Alright. Taskmaster. It's a girl. That's not even really the biggest thing that bothered me. I actually, in the middle of the movie, I actually...
Not even middle. It was until the beginning.
About 30 minutes in, something like that, I actually made a prediction that I thought it was going to be the mom. I would have been more okay with that, only because then it would have been, kind of a shock factor, like, oh, shit, and it would have had a lot more meaning to it. I felt like the character that they put in the role of Taskmaster, it felt so random, and it felt like, and now granted,
it was a stretch for me. It was like taking a Laffy Taffy, stretching it.
Yeah. Now granted, I don't know much about Black Widow, but I am quite a big fan of Taskmaster, and I feel like what they did with Taskmaster, gender swapping, it's one thing if there's a reason for it. Like I said, if it was the mom, or if it was, like, if they had made it like her sister or
I was starting to think it was the sister up until
they the Taskmaster was chasing them too. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Well, that's what a lot of people were thinking, was that it was going to be the sister. But then, that scene happened. I was like, okay, so it can't be.
But it would make sense where the sister went.
Yeah, and so that's why after that I was like, okay, so it's got to be the mom, because I knew they were going to gender swap it. But like I said, if there's a reason for it, okay. Typically, I'm not a fan of gender swapping pre-existing characters. It's the same thing as queer washing, whitewashing, all of that. I prefer to just have a character that's established the way it is, and then write new characters. You know, you write new characters that are bigger and better than the characters that we even had, and make them, you know, whatever nationality, sexuality, gender, whatever you want. I don't really care. But when you mess with pre-existing characters, you're making it harder to fall in love with that character because you're immediately taken out of, oh, well, that's not the character that I like from the comics. That's this version of a character. So I've never been a big fan of the gender swapping characters, especially considering Marvel has a huge habit of just doing it to male villains to make them fight female heroes. And I think that's totally wrong, because why can't a male villain fight a female hero? Even in this one, the male villain he was just a shit trash pig, which I felt was right for the movie, and I feel like it worked out. It was a really good little scene between him and Black Widow. But I would have also loved to have seen her kick a dude's ass in hand-to-hand combat. That's just as good as her at hand-to-hand combat. Just knows her stuff because he watches everything. It's not, oh, well, let's make her girl and bring Taskmaster down to Black Widow's playing field. And I know it's like, oh, well, you know, it's a female-led movie, it's supposed to be empowering, but there's a difference between being empowering and having strong female, well, there's a difference between it being empowering and having strong female-driven plots and characters, and being a feminist and being progressive for progressive's sake. And in my opinion, you shouldn't gender swap just to be progressive and just to say, hey, look, we did this. Do you like it? You should. If you're gonna, like I said, if you're gonna gender swap a character, that's cool, but do it for a reason. In Ant-Man and the Wasp, I do have to say it's okay, because the way they did that, it was to kind of set a connection with her, and with Hope, and with Scott's daughter. And to make that connection and that bond, you know, make you feel sympathy for that character more than it would be if it was a male. And so it made sense. With this, it could have just as easily been the original Taskmaster from the comics. And then, even if we just gloss over all of that, none of that really matters. In all honesty, I could have gotten over it. I could have just been like, okay, whatever. But why'd you have to fucking go and kill him? You had your villain problem solved, dude, by not killing the villains, letting them being able to come back and actually, you know, like, oh man. And even if you didn't kill him, you made him good. Taskmaster is a perfect villain. He's a perfect villain for all of the characters.
Spider-Man's coming up.
I know, and it makes me so mad because he's such a good character against Spider-Man. He's such a good character against Daredevil, and against Deadpool. We'll never get to see him against
like
Deadpool.
All over again.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, you bringing in a character with so much potential and so much rich history in the comics, and then you just throw him the hell away after one movie. What's even the point?
Right.
But, I mean, honestly, I'm worked up because I really like Taskmaster. I'm a fan of the character, and I feel like they completely butchered it and completely wasted the character. But I mean, I'll be honest, I knew they would, because of how heavy everyone went with, like, I could see it coming. And I mean, it's not a big deal, but like I said, they wasted him, but it really doesn't matter, because I mean, he's honestly a minor, or she is a minor part of the entire movie, because I mean, really, she's just a henchman to the main villain, and the main villain is that asshole of a dude who gets his shit kicked in, thankfully. But I mean, at least that was pretty sick. I mean, that was a really cool scene, the way they planned it out and everything like that, but we'll get to that a little more later. Starting from the beginning of the movie, I wanted to talk about that childhood scene that we actually see. So I don't know if I keep wanting to call him Crimson Dynamo now because they said that. But which is actually really cool, because Crimson Dynamo actually is another character in the comics. He's actually a villain. Red Guardian, I don't know if he's actually like related to Black Widow in any way in the comics. Like, not obviously not like related, because in the movie even it says she was taken from her parents, but like I don't know if he's tied into her actually in the comics. I mean, it would make sense with both their origins. I was actually looking into it. The sister, she actually is a Black Widow in the comics. She is she does become Black Widow at one point in the comics.
Okay, it makes sense.
And so they're definitely setting her up to become Black Widow. But again, we'll talk about that more a little bit later. But
I expected to have a lot more origin. I was excited for more of like an origin story for Black Widow. I knew it wasn't, but like.
Well, and it kind of went over some of it, but like more again.
It glossed over.
Again, it goes along with what I was saying earlier. A lot of what the movie does wrong, in my opinion, is it tells you instead of showing you. Mm-hmm. It just sits there and it's like, hey, you know, like this happened.
Remember when that happened and that happened?
Yeah. When it could be showing you these cool scenes and these flashbacks. I would have been fine with the entire movie being a bunch of different missions or flashbacks leading up to her doing this one big mission or something like that.
Right.
That would have been cool with me. Because I mean, that's kind of what it has to be, because it can't be like, you know, sequel to Endgame.
Right.
Well. But speaking of origins, though, whenever it does kind of show the montage of what's kind of what happened to her and her sister with the Red Room and all that, and the assassinations and everything, the cover of that song by Nirvana, I'm gonna have to find that cover, because that was a kick-ass cover.
It might blow up soon.
It's definitely going to. Okay, so we get the scene where it's 21 years later, after she's grown up, and it's right after Civil War's happening, and we see, like I said, Thunderbolt Ross is actually going after Black Widow because she violated the Sokovia Accords and all that. So it's interesting that one of the first scenes with, like, after the prologue, one of the first scenes we get has Thunderbolt Ross, and I'll get to that a little bit later when we talk about the post-credit scene, because they're definitely starting planting the seeds for stuff, and they kind of did before this, because Falcon Winter Soldier had to come out beforehand, but like I said, we'll get to that. But so when that Widow defects, we find out that Taskmaster Protocol is actually, they're basically the Red Room's enforcer. Mm-hmm. And so immediately I thought that was pretty cool. See, and that's the thing, is I didn't mind them, you know, kind of tweaking the character and changing him up. I was like, all right, that's what's up, you know, because I wondered how he was going to tie into the movie, because I was like, okay, I know it's going to be Taskmaster, but why Taskmaster? What does he have to do with this mission or with Black Widow? Because I try to stay away from pretty much all the marketing for this movie, other than like the first trailer.
You didn't get spoiled?
For who he was?
No. The other thing you thought you got spoiled for?
No, it was, I thought that Captain America was going to be in it.
Oh, okay.
No. Another thing I want to mention is when she's driving in the car and it plays Cheap Thrills by Sia, I thought that was pretty funny, because I mean, it's not really on the radio now, but at the time, it was on the radio a lot, and so it fit very well. The second it came on, I was like, okay, yeah, no, I'm back, you know, a few years ago when Civil War was set. Okay, that's cool. So that was pretty cool. It's that attention to detail that keeps me going to the Marvel movies, and that I really appreciate, that you can kind of sit there and dig. That was probably the best part of Captain Marvel for me. Except for the fact that they got a bunch of stuff wrong, but, you know, it's whatever. So, Natasha's sister is kind of a dick to her, and it's in a loving way, and it's hilarious. The chemistry and bouncing back between them two is just
phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome throughout the entire movie. But right away, whenever she's talking about, like, oh, the other Avengers, she totally trashes on the fact that Black Widow definitely, like, should not really be an Avenger. Like, she's just a spy. But the fact that she says, oh, I'm pretty sure the God of Lightning doesn't need to take an ibuprofen after a battle. I thought that was hilarious.
Or after a fight, but...
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious, because it's like, you're not wrong at all. But, yeah, so then right after that, she mentions... the hair flip, and that shit was hilarious, dude. The way she did it, just like, you know,
she had her like,
what's this thing you always do with the arm and the hair flip, and then the fact that it brought it back later, and then it's such a pose, and then later when she does it, and
she does it on accident, and she lands, and she's like, gross.
I don't even think it was an accident. I think that like she kind of went into it on accident, and then she kind of was like, I'm gonna try it, and it was like, no, not for me.
Yeah.
So as we were talking about like the pacing being kind of off and it having some sit and talky moments, when she's like kind of basically like convincing her sister to come with and help her, the fact that they've paired Black Widow up with Captain America so much, I can't help but make the comparison. And dude, she is nowhere near as good at motivational speeches as Captain America. Holy shit, dude, I was about to fall asleep so many times. One time I'm pretty sure I did because I had no fucking clue the Taskmaster was shown as a child and exploded.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Exploded.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whenever she came up, I was like, what? Did we even see her before? But it's whatever. I mean, honestly, like I said, it doesn't really matter.
I mean, that shows you anything.
Yeah, it could have. It still was a super lackluster reveal, I thought. Yeah. Especially because they started, like, when they started off the character, like, with the whole smile and all that weird shit, like, it made it seem like the character, like, that version of Taskmaster was going to be, like, twisted and, like, super fucked off.
For a minute, I thought maybe it was a clone.
Yeah, or some shit, but you're right, or something, but no.
It was really cool.
No, just fucking silent and weird and fucked up from an explosion. Like, I don't know. Anyway.
That's a chip in her. She has a chip in her neck, or the back of her head. That's what makes her...
Well, that's fine, but it's just...
I know.
It felt super lackluster. Okay, so one thing that I did notice when they first picked up regarding... Well, first off, that whole breakout scene when they get him out of the prison is A, hilarious, B, fucking awesome. Just the fact that he's like jumping around and like, fucking gets fucking tased and fucking...
She says, come on, super soldier, let's go.
Yeah, fucking, that was hilarious. But no, so when they first get him, I could not help but hear when he's sitting there bitching, they did this and that. He sounded just like fucking Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, he did.
Straight up. That shit was hilarious to me. But, so another thing regarding him that I thought was hilarious was he's so proud of them, but for all the wrong reasons.
All the wrong reasons, yeah.
All the wrong reasons. That shit was hilarious. I definitely would love to see an actual straight up Red Guardian movie. That'd be pretty dope.
When he was trying to put on the costume, and you can hear him from the living room, and they were just all kind of sitting there awkwardly like...
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Like I said, he definitely was like one of the best parts of that movie. He stole the show every time he was on screen.
Absolutely.
So, when they first find the mom, I was fucking convinced that she was a villain, dude. And then they kind of do like a double like reveal that makes you think she's a villain and blah blah blah. But like, dude, I was convinced that they were gonna be like, oh yeah, she's Taskmaster. Like after they actually like met her, because, dude, she was basically torturing that poor pig.
Yeah.
And then she's talking about, oh yeah, I'm brain controlling all these people. And, yeah, blah blah blah.
Well, the pig is not breathing.
Yeah, like
poor
that,
guy.
The whole thing, she was acting insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And twisted and dark.
Yeah, it was weird to me. But anyway, okay, so moving on, we get to the actual, we get to see the actual Red Room. I mean, it's just crazy to me that with it being there and exploding the way it did, the fact that it was never mentioned in anything. I mean, I guess in Infinity War, there's a lot more going on to worry about something like that. I guess maybe we'll hear about it some other time later or something. Like, the fact that Nick Fury had no idea about that, especially with all the helicarriers and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll get some explanation to it somewhere down the line, I imagine. Yeah, we already talked about how they wasted Taskmaster, but okay, so yeah, it seems like they're setting up, I forget her name, but Black Widow's sister, Yelena. it looks like they're setting her up to be the next Black Widow. And like I said, I was looking into it, and she has been a Black Widow in the comics. So I would not be surprised if that's what they're going to do going forward, since there is no Black Widow now. And we actually get the post-credits scene where it mentions that if she goes to see Black Widow's grave.
That was so sad.
And yeah,
she whistled.
Yeah, we actually finally get a kind of a more proper send off that everybody was mad that we didn't get in Endgame. But I mean, I didn't really mind because they had their little moment for her, but they didn't really have time to have a memorial for her because of what was going on. And if you went at the end of it, oh, here's Tony Stark's funeral, and then here's Black Widow, you're going to take away from one of them, regardless. And, so I think it's better that they focus on him in that one, and then have had Black Widows in this one,
hers.
And made it more personal.
Yeah.
But so Madam Hydra shows up, and she was supposed to show up
blowing her nose.
Yeah, so she was supposed to show up in this one first, because this movie was supposed to come out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So that being said, U.S. Agent was supposed to be recruited by her next. I think it's funny that her debut was supposed to be in a movie with Thunderbolt Ross, and where she is sending someone to go fight and kill Hawkeye/Ronin, who will probably end up being recruited because he's also been part of the Thunderbolts. So there's no way that is not where they're going with the next big thing, or one of the next big things that faces the Avengers, because or I'm not even sure if I think the Thunderbolts might be like a dark Avengers or like what's the word I'm looking for, like an anti-hero Avengers. But yeah, no, we've got U.S. Agent now, probably gonna be Hawkeye and Thunderbolt Ross. In the most recent trailer for Shang-Chi, you see Abomination. He'll probably end up being recruited in that. So we're slowly building that Thunderbolts team, and I mean, well, I say slowly, but it's going pretty quickly. So we're just gonna have to see how everything goes. And who knows? I mean, I don't really see there being anything to do with that in Loki, but I mean, we'll see. Overall, it was a pretty solid movie. I liked it. I enjoyed the third act a lot, other than the Taskmaster reveal. But the third act was definitely where it ramped up and where it got really, really good. I
laughed a lot.
Yeah, there were a lot of great, hilarious parts in it. The movie, like I said, the movie was good, but the best part for sure was the espionage plan at the end in that third act, and watching it unfold and learning all the little reveals of oh, well, we knew about this, or we planned for this in this way, and da 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 da, and it, like I said, watching it all unfold was real cool. That was by far the highlight of the film. There were a few, real cool action scenes and shots that were real badass. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad we got to go see it.
I love that she got her dog.
Yes.
She really got a dog.
Yes. I'm glad that the MCU's finally back, proper now. We've got it going with the TV shows. We've got it going with the movies. I mean, it's a good time to be a comic book fan, that's for sure. We got Eternals coming up soon, Shang-Chi, we've got Spider-Man, which I can't wait for, Doctor Strange next year, and then that's just on the Marvel side of things. Oh, and then we've got the What If series. We've got, tons of things coming down the pipeline. Moon Knight, She-Hulk, all sorts of things, Secret Invasion, everything.
I forgot about She-Hulk.
Yeah, dude, so many things. Miss Marvel, I cannot wait. We're definitely going to be trying to cover as much of it as we possibly can, given that we have the time. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that way you're notified of everything that's coming up in the future. If you like the video, don't forget to leave a like at the bottom and share this with somebody who's into the MCU or into Black Widow and who wants to talk about the movie. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the movie and what you thought of our video. We'd love to hear you guys' feedback. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope y'all have a spectacular day.
Bye. What? You didn't even put your pants back on?
No, this is better.